Okay, so are you ready to, like, explore some seriously mystical
Oh,
territory?
yeah.
The sources you've sent over on Thelema and, like, esoteric traditions, they're full of symbolism, rituals, and, I mean, some seriously mind-bending ideas. It's going to be a wild ride, I think.
It really is, It's fascinating how these sources actually weave together threads from like different traditions. We have like
Yeah.
Black Pearl magazine, which comes from the College of Thelema, so we already have like a specific perspective.
Right.
But within that, we have articles exploring not just like Thelemic practices, but like also Tantra, Hindu deities, and even a ritual that uses Wagner.
Harley.
It's a real mix.
Wow, it is. We have a commentary on the Book of the Ruby Star, which is like a secret ritual text.
Yeah.
And then articles like Tantra and Tarot,
Yeah.
Kali's Altar, and even poetry, exploring themes of devotion and the abyss.
Right?
Where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, I think the Book of the Ruby Star is a great starting point. It delves into this concept of Kundalini, that potent serpent energy that's said to reside within all of us.
Right. And it's not just about understanding Kundalini intellectually. This text is like a guidebook for activating it through like specific ritual practice.
Yeah.
It sounds intense.
It is. The text uses incredibly vivid imagery and symbolism to guide the reader towards spiritual transformation.
Okay.
Think of it like an alchemical process where the serpent force, Apep, acts as like the catalyst.
And apex is especially interesting, right? Because it represents the force that unites opposites, kind of like the yin and yang.
Right.
The text specifically points to Isis and Osiris, the divine feminine and masculine, as an example.
It's through their union that transformation really kicks off.
Exactly. And what's really striking is the text's emphasis on shedding shame and embracing one's sexuality as key to unlocking this power.
Oh, wow.
It's about the union of male and female energies,
Yeah.
not just in a physical sense, but also as a representation of these cosmic forces at play within us. So it's like the text is saying that to tap into this powerful spiritual energy, we need to like fully embrace every part of ourselves,
Yes.
even those parts that society might deem taboo.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that within this context, sexuality isn't just about the physical act. It's about recognizing the sacredness of the body and understanding the power of sexual energy as a tool for spiritual growth and transformation.
There's also that detail about the text number, 66,
Mm.
which is the sum of the first 11 numbers. And 11, as the text points out, is the number of magic itself. It's like there are all these hidden layers of meaning woven into every aspect of this text.
It's true. And that number, 66, hints at something really profound. It suggests that this transformation isn't just a personal journey. It's connected to the fabric of the universe, to the very forces that shape reality.
That's amazing. Okay, my mind is already buzzing with all these ideas.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a bit and explore Tantra and Tarot.
Okay.
This is a perspective on the tarot that I've never come across before.
It is unique.
Yeah.
It's a system that interprets the 22 major arcana through a tantric lens, revealing a whole new layer of meaning within those familiar images.
So for those of us who might not be familiar with Tantra, can you give us like a quick overview of its basic principles?
Of course.
Yeah.
At its core, Tantra is about harnessing sexual energy for spiritual growth.
Interesting. So how does this article connect those tantric principles to the tarot?
Well, it assigns a corresponding tantric concept to each tarot card,
Yeah.
suggesting that these cards can be used as a map for navigating the tantric journey.
Can you give us an example?
Absolutely. Let's take the Fool card.
Right.
In traditional tarot, it represents new beginnings, taking a leap of faith. In this tantric interpretation, it's linked to alchemical Mercury and Kundalini, that primordial life force that we were just talking about.
Right.
It's like stepping into the unknown with that raw creative energy at your disposal.
That's fascinating. And what about some of the other cards?
Well, the lovers, as you might expect, symbolize the sacred union of the priest and priestess, representing that tantric principle of balancing masculine and feminine energies to achieve wholeness.
Okay, that makes sense. But this is where things get really interesting for me.
Time.
The Tower, which is often seen as a card of upheaval and destruction, represents male orgasm,
Right.
while the Star, associated with hope and renewal, represents female orgasm. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, it's about understanding the energetic dynamics at
Yeah.
play during those experiences. The tower, with its image of like a crumbling structure, speaks to the shattering of the ego,
Yeah.
that sense of self-importance, which can be like a necessary step in spiritual growth.
Yeah.
It's like a breaking down of old structures to make way for something new.
Correct.
And the star, with its radiant energy, embodies the sense of peace, clarity, and connection that can arise after that ego death.
So it's not just about the physical sensations, right? It's about the deeper psychological and spiritual transformations
Exactly.
that those experiences can trigger.
This tantric interpretation of the tarot sees these cards not as literal representations of events, but as symbolic gateways to understanding the different stages of the spiritual journey.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really adds like a whole new dimension to these cards.
It does. And while this interpretation draws from the Book of Thoth, it's important to note that it's not advocating for a purely sexual practice. It's about recognizing the energy dynamics at play and using them as like a catalyst for spiritual growth.
Okay, I'm definitely going to be looking at my tarot deck differently from now on.
I think so, yeah.
Let's move on to Kali's altar.
Yeah,
Now, Kali is one fierce goddess, right?
absolutely. In Hindu mythology, she's often depicted as this powerful, even terrifying figure associated with both creation and destruction.
Right?
She's not afraid to shake things up.
Got it.
And this particular article describes a ritual designed to connect with her energy.
And one detail that really caught my eye was the placement of a blue goblet on the right side of the altar. What's the significance of that?
In many esoteric traditions, the right side is associated with the feminine principle, the receptive energy.
Right.
And blue is often associated with intuition and wisdom. So, placing the blue goblet on the right side of the altar is symbolic of inviting Kali's feminine wisdom and power into the ritual space.
It's like setting the stage for her presence.
Right.
And what's so fascinating about Kali is that her presence seems to transcend geographical boundaries.
It does.
The article mentions Kotlikue in Mexico, Kyluk in Ireland, even Califia, who inspired the name California. It's like she's a universal archetype expressing herself through different cultures and mythologies.
You're right. It's as though she represents a primal universal force.
Yeah.
One that's been recognized and worshipped across the globe under different names and forms. It speaks to the power of the feminine archetype, that energy of creation, destruction, and transformation that's inherent in the universe itself.
It's like she's the embodiment of nature's cycles, the ebb and flow of life and death, the constant dance of creation and destruction that keeps everything in motion.
Exactly. And that brings us to Reflections, a ritual of the path of Mem. This one takes us on a journey into the depths of our own minds and emotions, using symbolism and music as guides.
This one really intrigued me because it's like taking an inner voyage, exploring the landscapes of our own psyche. The article talks about visualizing the ocean as a representation of our mind and using music to evoke specific emotional states.
It's a powerful technique. Imagine yourself standing on the shore, feeling the vastness of the ocean, hearing the waves crashing, and seeing the depths below.
Yeah.
That's your psyche, full of unexplored territories, hidden depths, and powerful currents. And by using music, we can navigate those waters, bringing certain emotions to the surface, allowing ourselves to experience the full spectrum of our inner world.
The article mentions using Wagner's Der Fliegende Holländer and Holst's Neptune for this. Those are both incredibly evocative pieces of music. I could almost feel the waves crashing within my own mind just thinking about it.
They are. And they were carefully chosen to represent different emotional states. Der Fliegende Holländer, with its themes of longing, isolation, and redemption, can help us connect with those darker, more turbulent aspects of ourselves, those parts we might try to keep hidden. While Neptune, with its vast cosmic soundscapes, can evoke a sense of awe, wonder, and connection to something larger than ourselves.
It's like using music as a key to unlock different chambers of our hearts and minds.
It is. And this ritual isn't just about exploring our emotions for the sake of it. It's about understanding how they relate to different aspects of ourselves. It's a practical demonstration of the connection between Gebra, the sphere of strength, and Hod, the sphere of intellect,
Yeah.
mirroring the structure of the Hanged Man tarot card.
Wait, how does the Hanged Man fit into all of this?
Well, the Hanged Man represents a state of surrender, of seeing the world from a different perspective. It's about letting go of control, allowing ourselves to be suspended in that liminal space between the known and the unknown, where true transformation can occur. And that's what this ritual encourages us to do. to surrender to our emotions, to see them from a new perspective, and to allow them to guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves.
That's incredible. It's like we're using music and visualization to access the wisdom of the tarot. This is blowing my mind.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of these different systems of knowledge and how they can be used to guide our spiritual growth.
Okay, I need a moment to process all of this.
Yeah.
Let's pause here for now and continue our exploration in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Picking up where we left off, it's fascinating how these sources emphasize that, like, spiritual work isn't a passive activity.
Right.
It's not about waiting around for some kind of divine intervention, you know?
Yeah.
It's about taking an active role in shaping our own transformation.
Yes. It's like these texts are presenting a kind of spiritual alchemy,
Yeah.
where we're given the tools and techniques to refine and transmute the raw materials of ourselves into something more potent,
Right.
more aligned with our true nature.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And one of the articles that really delves into this idea is Opus 8. It outlines a fascinating method for attuning to specific energies using the Kabbalistic system and color scales.
Yes. This one really stood out to me. It's almost like a step-by-step guide for navigating the subtle realms. First, you visualize yourself surrounded by specific colors, then you move through a tunnel-like space, and ultimately you experience a shift in consciousness.
It's a powerful technique for connecting with the archetypal energies represented by the different Sephiroth on the Tree of Life.
Right.
For those unfamiliar, the Kabbalah is a mystical system that uses a symbolic map,
Right.
often depicted as a tree, to represent different aspects of reality and consciousness.
Okay.
Each Sephira on this Tree of Life embodies a specific archetype, a fundamental energy or principle.
So it's like tapping into a universal source code.
In a way, yes. And this Opus 8 technique uses color and visualization to help us establish a connection with those archetypal energies.
Yeah.
Imagine each Sephira as a different color, vibrating at a specific frequency. By surrounding ourselves with that color and visualizing ourselves moving towards it, we can begin to resonate with its energy, bringing its qualities into our own being.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The article also mentions using Hebrew names in something called the ladder method
Yeah.
to enhance this connection.
Yeah.
Can you break down that ladder method for us? It sounds intriguing.
Imagine the Tree of Life as a cosmic ladder, with each Sephira representing a different rung.
Okay.
The ladder method is about progressively attuning to the energy of a specific Sephira by visualizing its corresponding colors and vibrating its associated Hebrew name.
Okay.
The Hebrew names act like keys, unlocking specific vibrational frequencies within us.
So it's about establishing a resonance, a vibrational alignment with that particular sphere of consciousness,
Yeah.
almost like tuning a radio to a specific
It's
station.
like a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And as you ascend this ladder, rung by rung, you gradually refine your awareness and connect with higher and more subtle realms of being.
Okay, I'm ready to climb. But before we ascend any further, can we take a closer look at some of the mystical experiences recounted in these sources? I'm particularly curious about the vision and the voice, which chronicles Aleister Crowley's journeys through various ethers.
Absolutely. These visions are incredibly rich in symbolism and offer a fascinating glimpse into the subjective experiences of someone navigating these inner landscapes.
Yeah.
The term ether, by the way, refers to these subtle realms that are experienced through magical consciousness.
Okay.
Think of them as layers of reality beyond our everyday perception.
So it's like exploring different dimensions of consciousness.
Exactly. And each ether has its own unique qualities and challenges.
Right.
Shall we start with the 12th ether? It's particularly relevant to our discussion of transformation.
Yes, this one really stood out to me,
Okay.
especially that central image of a chariot drawn by four sphinxes. It's like a visual representation of the complexities of the adept's journey towards Bina, the sphere of understanding on the Tree of Life.
It's a brilliant image. Remember, each sphinx represents a different aspect of the four holy living creatures: the bull, lion, man, and eagle.
Right.
These creatures symbolize the fundamental forces of creation,
Yeah.
and their combination in the sphinx imagery suggests the integration of these forces within the adept.
It's like the adept is harnessing the power of these primal forces to propel them forward on their journey. And there's that detail about the chariot's canopy being supported by 8 pillars, yet somehow encompassing the entire vault of the night sky. It's a paradox, a visual representation of the transcendent nature of this experience.
It speaks to the limitations of our ordinary perception. and the expansion of awareness that's possible when we move beyond those limitations.
Mhm.
And let's not forget the charioteer himself, clad in golden armor, a white robe and a red robe.
Right.
It's an alchemical fusion of solar and lunar energies, masculine and feminine, active and receptive.
And on his helmet, he bears the crest of a crab. That's interesting considering the astrological connection to Cancer that we discussed earlier.
It's no coincidence. Cancer is associated with the moon, the feminine principle, and the sphere of Bina.
Oh.
This imagery reinforces the idea that this journey is about connecting with the receptive, intuitive aspects of ourselves, allowing ourselves to be guided by a deeper wisdom.
And then there's the cup filled with the blood of the saints, radiating a captivating glow. It's a potent image, both beautiful and unsettling.
It represents the pouring forth of one's life essence, the complete surrender of the ego to the great work.
Okay.
It's a powerful symbol of sacrifice and transformation, acknowledging that true growth often requires us to let go of what we hold dear, to offer ourselves fully to the process of becoming.
And the text describes the blood as having a richness and voluptuousness and humanity, and also a strength and freshness and sweetness and purity. It's almost like a sensory experience of the divine, a fusion of the earthly and the transcendent.
It's a beautiful reminder that the spiritual path is not about denying our human experience, but rather about transmuting it, refining it, and elevating it to a higher level. It's about recognizing the inherent divinity within ourselves and the world around us.
And the charioteer identifies Babylon with understanding, emphasizing her role as the lady of the night, who has given herself to everything that lives.
Right.
It's an intriguing perspective on the divine feminine, one that embraces both darkness and light, creation and destruction.
It challenges the traditional dualistic view of good and evil, suggesting that true understanding encompasses all aspects of existence.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, the dance of life and death, creation and destruction, that weaves the tapestry of reality.
It's like saying that to truly understand ourselves and the universe, we need to embrace the whole spectrum of experience, the light and the shadow, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the pain.
Yeah.
Nothing is excluded.
Exactly. And this vision culminates in a call for surrender, for intoxication by the wine of her fornications. It's about embracing the fullness of life, the ecstatic union with all things, without holding back.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
I'm already feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer density of these symbols and ideas.
Don't worry, it takes time and contemplation to fully grasp the depth of these teachings.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the 11th ether, which presents a very different kind of challenge.
This one seems to be all about confronting the limitations of the rational mind and the fortifications of the ego.
Right.
The symbolism of the city of the pyramids, representing the structured self, threatened by the chaotic forces of the abyss, is so potent. It's like a battle between order and chaos playing out within our own minds.
It is. It's about recognizing the boundaries we construct around ourselves and the need to transcend those limitations to experience true unity.
Yeah.
The abyss, in this context, represents the unknown, the chaotic void that lies beyond the boundaries of the ego.
Right.
It's the space where all our carefully crafted structures and beliefs break down, and we're forced to confront the raw, unfiltered truth of our being.
It sounds terrifying.
It can be, but it's also alluring.
Oh.
The abyss holds the potential for immense liberation and expansion. It's where we shed our old, limiting identities and open ourselves to something vaster, something more profound than we can possibly imagine.
The text also emphasizes the importance of shedding names and identities as one approaches this threshold.
Right.
It's like a stripping away of all that we cling to, a descent into the primordial soup of pure potentiality.
Precisely. And remember, Yesod, the foundation of consciousness on the tree of life, is associated with automatic responses, those habitual patterns of thought and behavior that we develop to navigate the world.
Right.
To truly transcend the abyss, we need to become aware of those patterns, those knee-jerk reactions, and learn to choose a different response.
It's like saying that we need to become conscious of our own programming and rewrite the code that's been running our lives on autopilot.
Exactly. It's about moving from unconscious reactivity to conscious choice, from being driven by fear and conditioning to being guided by our true will and purpose.
It's a call to step into the unknown, to embrace the transformative power of the void.
Yes.
But let's be honest, it's a daunting prospect.
Absolutely. Confronting the abyss is not for the faint of heart.
No.
It requires courage, surrender, and a willingness to face the shadow self, all those aspects of ourselves that we've oppressed, denied, or projected outward.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our final vision for today, the 10th Oither and the unsettling encounter with Choronzon.
This one definitely sent shivers down my spine. It's a first-hand account of a magical battle with the demon of dispersion, a force that embodies fragmentation, chaos, and resistance to unity.
Yeah.
And what makes this account even more fascinating is that we're seeing it primarily through the eyes of Victor Newberg, the scribe who witnessed this confrontation.
That's right.
Right.
It's important to remember that this account is filtered through Newberg's perspective, his subjective experience of the events as they unfolded.
Yeah.
He was a highly sensitive individual, deeply attuned to the subtle realms, so his account is particularly vivid and emotionally charged.
And the psychic intensity of Crowley's invocation was so strong that it impressed itself upon Newberg's mind with the vividness of a physical encounter. It's like he was pulled into the heart of this magical battle, experiencing its raw power firsthand.
Exactly. It speaks to the power of these practices and the potential for these energies to manifest in very tangible ways.
Right.
But let's focus on Choronzon himself for a moment.
Okay.
He's described as a shapeshifter, constantly changing forms, embodying the fragmented ego and the chaotic forces that can overwhelm us when we lose our center.
He's also associated with the number 333, which Crowley connected to the Greek words for incontinence and dispersion.
Right.
It suggests a lack of control, a scattering of energy, a fragmentation of the self.
And notice how Choronzon constantly tries to distract and disrupt the scribe, engaging him in arguments, appealing to his pride and pity, even attempting to seduce him with illusions of a past love.
Wow.
It's a classic example of how the shadow self can sabotage our efforts at spiritual growth, using our own weaknesses and desires against us.
It's like our inner saboteur, that voice of doubt and fear that whispers in our ear, trying to convince us that we're not good enough, strong enough, worthy enough to achieve our goals.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes the importance of concentration and silence as weapons against Choronzon's influence.
Okay.
It's about cultivating inner stillness, a state of focused awareness that allows us to see through those distractions and temptations, to remain grounded in the face of chaos.
It's like building a fortress of awareness within ourselves, a sanctuary of peace that can withstand the storms of doubt and fear.
And that's where the name Babylon comes in.
Right.
It's the name that ultimately banishes Choronzon, restoring order and wholeness.
Yes. It's described as victory over Choronzon, highlighting the power of the divine feminine to overcome fragmentation and restore unity.
Babylon represents the integration of opposites, the union of darkness and light, the embodiment of love under will.
Right.
She's the antidote to Choronzon's chaotic influence, a symbol of the transformative power of embracing the fullness of our being.
So what can we take away from this harrowing encounter with Choronzon? It seemed to suggest that confronting the shadow self is a necessary but perilous undertaking,
Yeah.
one that requires a lot of inner strength and resilience.
Absolutely. It's not about suppressing or denying the darker aspects of ourselves, but rather about facing them with courage and awareness, integrating them into a larger sense of wholeness.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that the shadow is not our enemy, but rather a part of ourselves that's seeking recognition and integration.
It's like befriending our demons, learning to dance with the darkness instead of trying to fight it.
Exactly. And it requires a strong will, a focused mind, and a deep trust in the guiding forces of the universe.
Right.
It's about remembering that we're not alone in this journey, that there are forces beyond our comprehension that are supporting our growth and evolution.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling the weight of that. This deep dive has been a whirlwind of symbolism, ritual, and mystical experiences. It's a lot to process.
It has been a fascinating exploration of the Thelemic tradition and its intersection with other esoteric paths. Yeah.
And we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
That's right. There's still so much to explore. But for now, let's pause here and allow ourselves to digest all that we've learned.
Right.
We'll be back soon for the final part of this epic journey. Okay, so we're back from the final part of our deep dive into Thelema and esoteric traditions. I'm still buzzing from all the symbolism, rituals, and mystical visions we explored in the last two parts.
It has been quite a journey. And, as we delve further into this collection of sources, what really strikes me is the emphasis on personal experience.
Yeah.
These teachings aren't just about intellectual understanding.
Right.
They're about embodying these principles and applying them in your own life.
That makes sense. We've encountered so many different techniques and practices, from visualizations to invocations to rituals. It's all about like actively engaging with these energies and experiencing their transformative power, like firsthand.
Right.
It's not just theory, it's about like putting it into practice.
Precisely. And a great example of that is the Book of the Ruby Star.
Right.
This text isn't just a theoretical treatise on Kundalini.
Right.
It's a guide for a specific ritual practice aimed at activating that potent serpent force that lies dormant within us.
Right. And remember, Apep, the serpent, is the key player in this ritual drama.
Right. Yeah.
It's the force that unites opposites, drives transformation, and ultimately leads to the awakening of Kundalini.
Yeah.
But what really stood out to me was the text's emphasis on shedding shame and embracing one's sexuality as essential to this process.
Right.
It's like saying that to access this spiritual power, we need to fully embrace every part of ourselves,
Yeah.
even those parts that society might consider taboo.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that in this context, sexuality isn't just about the physical act. It's about recognizing the sacredness of the body and the power of sexual energy as a tool for spiritual growth and transformation. It's
Yeah.
about understanding that this energy, often seen as something base or animalistic, can be harnessed and directed toward a higher purpose.
It's like we're reclaiming that energy and transforming it into something sacred.
Exactly. And notice how the text emphasizes the union of male and female energies, not just in a physical sense, but also as a representation of cosmic forces.
Right.
It's about harmonizing those polarities within ourselves,
Yeah.
finding that balance between the masculine and feminine principles to access a higher level of being.
There's also that intriguing detail about the secret stone that results from this alchemical process.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that symbol?
The secret stone represents the culmination of the work, the tangible manifestation of the transformation that's taken place.
Okay.
It's a symbol of spiritual awakening, of achieving a state of wholeness and integration.
Right.
And what's particularly interesting is that it's described as both attainable and holy.
Right.
This suggests that spiritual awakening isn't some abstract, otherworldly concept.
Yeah.
It's a concrete reality that can be experienced in this very lifetime.
It's like saying that enlightenment isn't something that happens to you. It's something you actively cultivate through your own efforts and practices.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for your own spiritual growth and transformation.
Okay. I'm starting to see the connection between these seemingly abstract concepts and their practical applications.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a moment and explore something a bit more, well, controversial, shall we? Temples of the body definitely pushes some boundaries,
Yeah.
even within the context of esoteric traditions.
Right.
It explores the body as a sacred space for spiritual work, specifically through tantric practices.
You're right. It is a controversial topic.
Yeah.
And as we discussed earlier, it presents two contrasting approaches to Tantra.
Right.
One that uses marriage and spousal love as the foundation for practice,
Right.
and another that separates magical partners from romantic partners,
Yeah.
using the impersonal as a bridge to the transpersonal.
And the ritual described in the article, where one partner is consecrated as a temple of either Aphrodite or Ares, highlights the importance of intention, consent, and the conscious direction of sexual energy for spiritual purposes.
Yeah.
It's not about indulging in sensual pleasure for its own sake.
Right.
It's about using that energy as a catalyst for spiritual growth and transformation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the sacredness of the body and the potential for transforming physical energy into spiritual energy.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to emphasize that while the ritual is phrased in heterosexual terms, these practices can absolutely be adapted for same-sex partners.
Right.
The core principles remain the same.
It's about the energetic exchange, the conscious union of two individuals for the purpose of spiritual growth and transformation.
Right.
Right.
And speaking of growth and transformation, there's one more article I'd like to revisit. Reflections. A Ritual of the Path of Mem.
Okay.
This one really resonated with me because it uses music and visualization to guide participants on an inner journey,
Yeah.
a descent into the depths of their own psyche.
Oh, yes. I love that one, too. The idea of visualizing the ocean as a representation of one's mind and emotions is so evocative. Yeah.
It really is.
And using music like Wagner's Der Fliegende Holländer and Holst's Neptune to create those emotional shifts is genius.
It really is.
I can just imagine the power of those pieces,
Yeah.
amplifying those feelings of longing, isolation, and ultimately a yearning for something greater.
It's a powerful example of how art can be used as a tool for inner exploration and transformation.
Right.
It's about using music to tap into those deep, often unconscious emotions and bring them to the surface, allowing us to experience them fully and integrate them into a greater sense of wholeness.
And the ritual emphasizes the connection between Gibura, the sphere of strength, and Herded, the sphere of intellect, mirroring the structure of the Hanged Man tarot card.
Yeah.
I love that connection.
Yeah.
The Hanged Man represents that state of surrender,
Right.
of seeing the world from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
It's about letting go of control and allowing yourself to be suspended in a liminal space between the known and the unknown, where true transformation can occur.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that surrender, that willingness to let go of our habitual ways of thinking and perceiving, is essential for the kind of deep transformation that these teachings are pointing towards.
It's like saying that to truly evolve, to break free from the limitations of our ego, we need to be willing to let go of everything we think we know,
Yeah.
everything we cling to for security, and step into the unknown with open hearts and minds.
Absolutely. It's about embracing the mystery, trusting the process, and allowing ourselves to be guided by something greater than our limited human understanding.
Okay, I'm feeling a bit like I'm hanging upside down myself. My mind is definitely stretched to its limits. But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
can we touch on one more important theme that runs through all these sources? The recurring motif of confronting the shadow self.
Absolutely. It's a theme that's woven throughout these teachings.
Yeah.
From the vision and the voice, 11th ether, where we encounter the city of the pyramids threatened by the chaotic forces of the abyss,
Right.
to the harrowing encounter with Corazon in the 10th ether.
Right. And even in the Book of the Ruby Star, there's an emphasis on shedding shame,
Right.
which can be seen as a form of confronting and integrating the shadow self.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that those parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable,
Right.
those aspects we try to hide or deny, are actually integral parts of who we are.
Precisely. The shadow self isn't something to be feared or avoided, but rather an integral part of our psyche that needs to be acknowledged and integrated into a larger sense of wholeness.
Right.
It's about understanding that those negative qualities, those dark impulses, are not separate from us, but rather aspects of ourselves that need to be embraced and transformed.
It's like saying that darkness and light, creation and destruction, are not opposing forces, but rather two sides of the same coin.
Right.
To be whole, to be fully integrated, we need to embrace both.
Exactly. And integrating the shadow self isn't about becoming evil or embracing negativity.
Right.
It's about becoming more whole, more complete. It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of our human experience and embracing the totality of who we are, the light and the shadow, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly.
Wow, this deep dive has been a wild ride. From Kundalini energy to tantric rituals, from mystical visions to confronting demons.
Yeah, it has.
It's been an intense exploration of the Phalamic tradition and its emphasis on personal transformation.
It has been a fascinating journey, and I hope it's inspired you to continue exploring these ideas and practices in your own life.
Absolutely. And to those of you listening, we encourage you to keep diving deep. What resonated most with you today? What new questions or ideas are you left with? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep seeking your own unique path to truth and transformation. Thanks for joining us.